here in the Capital Region, we are getting ready for UAlbany Lacrosse, a return trip to the national quarterfinal. They'll take on Notre Dame for the second consecutive year. Last year, UAlbany blew a 5-goal lead in the fourth quarter to the Irish, failed to advance to the Final Four. They'll take them on again tomorrow, 3 p.m. in Denver. We've got Sam Benson of Bleacher Report with us at Sam B. Benson on Twitter. Sam, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Now, you predicted this week, you wrote you think UAlbany's going to win at 15-13. Why?
Well, you got to love Albany, the way they play. They're a well-coached team. And Lyle Thompson, you can't bet against this kid, He's arguably the greatest D1 player of all time. He's an incredible scorer. And what it'll come down to, though, I think, is Albany's midi line is deep, experienced, so many great players. And I think that'll be the X factor. Notre Dame doesn't have the firepower to match that.
Now you've got UAlbany, their third straight trip to the NCAA tournament, their second trip to the quarterfinal. They do have arguably the nation's best player. How does that experience help the Danes going into this matchup?
You can't measure that, honestly, but you got to understand that's going to be crucial for so many teams. You look at a team like Syracuse that I think will win the national championship this year, and the reason is because they played a brutal ACC schedule, and they have that experience of playing, major teams, top 5 teams week in, week out, twice a week, And when it comes down to the quarterfinals, the Final Four, it'll pay off and show that they have that experience of being battle-tested. And Albany's in the same position of being in the quarterfinals for their, second and third straight year?
Second straight year for the quarterfinal.
Off. Undoubtedly, it's going to pay off, and we'll see that.
You've got Lyle Thompson on the Dane side. You've got Matt Cavanaugh on the Irish side. He's a Tewaaraton finalist as well. Is this the best matchup of one player on each side that you can have in the sport?
That's a good question. And I would say, 2 weeks ago you asked me this question, I would say yes, undoubtedly. But then you watch Matt Cavanaugh's performance against Duke in the ACC semifinals, and that really did not impress me at all. He only had 1 goal, 1 assist, but it wasn't the stats that really sent me off. It's that you watch him without the ball, you watched him throughout that game, and he was uninterested, almost, it looked like. And Duke's defense really took him out of the game. When he had the ball, they didn't give him good angles. They forced him out. They forced him back into the X spot behind the crease. And then when he didn't have the ball, they wouldn't let him touch it. They forced him out of it. And he did not prove that he was a dominant Tewaaraton finalist in that game, in my opinion. So I honestly think Lyle Thompson is the much better player here. Obviously, Cavanaugh's a great player, and it's going to be a big task for Albany to try to slow him down, try to shut him down. But if they can do that, I don't think he'll be much of an issue and pale in the sight of Lyle Thompson.
Do you find the national seeding for this tournament weird? I mean, look, the NCAA basketball tournament gets a lot of grief for its seeding. The old BCS in football got a lot of grief as well. But to me, the lacrosse seeding just seems odd. Notre Dame gets the number 1 overall seed. They didn't even win the ACC tournament. UAlbany finishes the year number 6 overall. They have to go on the road against Cornell, who's number 11, if I'm not mistaken. Do you find it odd?
The way I look at this is I honestly believe Syracuse should have been the number 1 overall seed, no doubt about it. And then you look at these quarterfinals, Johns Hopkins almost literally gets a home game this weekend against Syracuse, and then Denver almost gets a home game at Mile High Stadium also. So it's not – they try to make it neutral sites. They try to make the seedings fair. But there's a long way to go to make it an elite tournament that people actually understand, people want to watch because the seedings are fair, seedings are equal. And, yeah, there's a long way to go, I agree.
You've already mentioned Syracuse is your national championship winner. Fans here in the Capital Region are also interested in Syracuse as well because their goalie, Bobby Wardwell, is a Shenendehowa High School graduate right down the road from our studio. And so what makes the Orange so good? Because certainly people in this area are going to have a heavy interest in them.
There's so much about Syracuse to like. I've watched them all season. But I love their attack line. Kevin Rice and Dylan Donahue, 2 of the best scorers in the country right now. They can combine for 10 points a game easily. And that's what makes them so dominant. But then also, you mentioned Bobby Wardwell, one of the most underrated goalies in the nation. When all said and done, they're experienced, they're battle-tested. They fought through that ACC schedule, as I mentioned before. Teams like Albany, who played a kind of soft schedule, and you can say that's because of the conference they're in, whatever. But Syracuse has the experience, they're battle tested, all that, and that's going to pay off come tournament time.
Want to ask you about one more team that local fans here in the Capital Region will have a vested interest in, and that's North Carolina. Arguably, their best player, Luke Goldstock, is a Niskayuna graduate, also right down the road from our studio. He led the team in goals this season. At one point was on the Tewaaraton watch list. How good is he, and how good are the Tar Heels, and are they a threat to win the national title?
They're a great team. I think the only big thing holding them back here is their road to the championship. I mean, they got Maryland in the quarterfinals, who isn't a great team, but obviously it's one of those scary teams that if you overlook them, they can get you. You know, they fought Johns Hopkins hard in the Big Ten tournament. They were on top of the Big Ten for most of the season. And then if they get past Maryland, they got Syracuse in the Final Four, which obviously is a tough matchup. But North Carolina, like Syracuse, fought through the ACC. You know, they have some great players. Goldstock, you mentioned, as one of those. And I think they're a great team. But in the end, it's going to be their road to the title game that's really going to bite them.
Sam Benson, Bleacher Report, joining us here at 1045theteam.com, getting ready for UAlbany, Notre Dame. That game tomorrow, 3 p.m. in Denver. Follow Sam on Twitter at Sam B. Benson. Sam, you've already predicted Syracuse as your national title winner. About 3 weeks from now, we're going to have our Tewaaraton decision made. Lyle Thompson is up for it. Will Lyle Thompson win it again and become the first player ever to repeat?
Yes. I firmly believe so, yeah.
Is it even close?
Obviously, you have players like Kevin Rice, Matt Cavanaugh that will be up there competing for it out of those 5 finalists. But Lyle Thompson, there's nobody like him in college lacrosse. You know, if the people know anything about lacrosse that are voting, they're going to go with Lyle Thompson. There's no way to argue with that.
Lyle Thompson up for the Tewaaraton Award for the 3rd straight year, would look to become the second player or the first player ever to win it in 2 consecutive seasons. Last year split the award with his brother Miles. Sam Benson, Bleacher Report, thanks for being with us. Enjoy the games tomorrow.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.